Welcome back. Joining us back in the studio this week, we've got the Director of the Community and Minority Outreach for the county, Mr. Derek Matthews, returning to the studio. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Happy New Year to you both.
Tell us about what you're working on right now.
Right now, as the Director of Community and Minority Outreach, I'm focused right now on two projects, specifically with public safety. I'm trying to, I guess, reinvent, if you will, the recruiting process for both police and fire to make them more friendly for minorities, and that's minorities of all kinds. So we're trying to rebuild the infrastructure, create new marketing material, find new venues, and find a new way of doing things that are more appealing to the minority so we can look more like our county, Anne Arundel County, as far as diversity goes.
Very good. And recently I had heard a story that you were in a meeting and you felt like your mother was there because the amount of respect that you were generating from the room.
Wow.
Talk to us about your mom.
You guys get good in.
Yeah.
Larger than life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We heard on the street.
So it was interesting. I was in a meeting of community leaders dealing with, we're about to talk about a very serious subject, something that was going on within the school system. And as all the clergy walked in, all of pretty much I knew, and all the community leaders walk in, one of the clergy females, who was very close to my mother, had an opportunity to actually see the title on the card. And I guess in seeing that and making the connection to the position and what I was doing, it touched her. And when it touched her, you could tell that she was genuinely touched to see that things were going well for me, if you will. And I guess as the meeting kind of went on, I just kind of felt like the spirit, she just passed just 3 years ago. I could feel the spirit and the respect that being her son, doing things in the community was making her smile, and it just felt good.
I imagine that provides.
She was a pastor.
Yeah.
She was a pastor here in the Annapolis area. You know, United Methodists move around, so she was here in Annapolis. She was at Colesville. She was at Jessup. But she spent a number of years in Eastport as
very
as a
comforting,
pastor.
I can
Very
imagine.
comforting.
Yeah.
It really felt good to know that Angel was in the room as you moved about your community giving back. So it felt really good.
Well, you know she's proud of you.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is.
No doubt. Tell us a little bit about your experience. You've worked in law enforcement before.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
I was a Prince George's County Sheriff for a number of years. Had an opportunity to work my way through the ranks, pretty much all branches of that department. Spent a number of years on a special assignment with the FBI, working on some major crimes, violent narcotics, task force, if you will, called Safe Streets. And then I left that and went into corporate America. Spent some time traveling the world, probably seen about 51, 52 countries, give or take a few.
Really?
Doing some security-related matters over time. So I've had an opportunity to see corporate and law enforcement, kind of from both spectrums. Yeah.
51, 52 countries.
Somewhere. My daughter has a perfect count, but I'll just I'll stick somewhere in that
She's
ballpark.
lucky.
Any
By the
stick
way-
out to you, like a favorite that you?
I love Italy.
I would too.
I love Italy. I love Italy.
Have you been to Italy?
I would like to.
Okay.
That's where my
This past-
family's from.
This past summer, just prior to starting this position, I was in Africa for a number of months working on a project there, and I enjoy it. I enjoy
Whereabouts?
traveling. I was in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Nigeria. Yeah.
That I didn't even know that. We find out things in these
We do.
in-depth
I can
interviews.
tell.
I want to see your daughter's list.
I can tell.
Well, and by the way, I've had the opportunity to meet Derek's son and his daughter, and these are some poised. I'm going to call them kids, but they're not kids. They're what?
21. They're twins, boy and a girl. 21.
Oh, they're 21.
What are their names?
Arrington and Ariana.
Arrington, Ariana. Hey.
Hey, how's
Shout
you
outs.
doing? Dad, doing good.
Thank you.
So we just had Dr. King's birthday, and I think it's important whenever we have these sort of historical figures being celebrated that we come back to, what do you think makes Dr. King relevant today to young people who really may not know a lot about him?
That's a great question, Dave. And I think what we really have to continue to teach and educate our next generation, if you will, is the legacy that he left behind. The ability for us to preach and talk and really involve the kids in lessons of hope, respect, honor and dignity, things that he stood for, that he left generations to follow. So for us to be able to work together, no matter what your color, no matter what your sexual preference, no matter where you live, but for people to be able to look at each other as human beings and be able to coexist in peace. And that legacy, as we move forward, gives me a lot of pleasure in this position, because in that position that we're talking about right now, I kind of have the ability now to kind of put puzzle pieces together that haven't been used to talking or having dialogue, or there's pockets of the community that we haven't spent time reaching into those communities, letting people know that there's a career that in public safety you could actually have if you make good decisions. And a single bad decision can alter the course of your life, as it pertains to having a career versus a job. So kind of that legacy as it lives when we do these dinners and these breakfasts, and it's good to get these youth out and let them hear some parts of history where people fought and died for us to have some of the rights that we have as African Americans and as minorities as a whole. So I think it's a perfect time right now for us to look at those things.
Agreed.
And we've seen you do this. We've seen this in practice with you because for those who don't recall, after the Freddie Gray incident in Baltimore City, there was a series of community meetings between the police department and different communities. I think we had 5 of them, something like that. And you moderated those. And that, I think that's your strongest suit, is that you're able to get people to kind of focus, slow down, stop, listen to what the other person's saying. And now I had the opportunity to work on the firefighter recruitment effort that we're doing. And you walk into, this doesn't happen too often, you walk into the fire department and instantly everybody knows you, you got all these things going on, people are working together. So I think that's a really strong suit that you have, and I've noticed it right away how quickly we've done things that over the years have not really happened. So I think people are really going to appreciate when they see the products from the work you're doing. So
I think that goes back to the angel we just talked about, knowing that she had the ability to do that. And I think when you leave a legacy, and it's a good legacy, people follow. So trying to give back something to follow. You only treat people like you want to be treated. So with getting a job done, when I walk into a room, I know what the expectations are. And right now I know what the expectations of Steve Shue are for this position. So it's very easy for me to do what I do and do it at a level of my expectations that have been put out for the county's mission. And our county, being as diverse as it is, people need to know that. People need to know that there's nothing being done intentional right now under this administration to stop minorities from having a job, but people need the education to know where things exist and how to better put the pieces together. And I think we can do that.
Can you speak a bit more to the current state of diversity in our public safety departments and how you think we can improve?
Okay, so it's another great question. So we just had a meeting and it kind of forced us to look at some statistics, if you will. And statistically speaking, Anne Arundel County is doing very well. But we'd like to do better. And how do we do better? We do better by strategically placing ourselves in audiences and venues where people that don't know what they don't know get an opportunity to see. Our recruiting staffs on police and fire need to look more like the venues in which they walk into. So that being said, as clear as I can say it, when you go to a certain venue, people should be able to walk in and look at their recruiters at a young age and say, wow, I want to be her, or wow, I want to be him, because they can see 15 years from now that it's possible for me to do that. When we go out, we need to make sure that our marketing material looks like the very community in which we're trying to recruit, and not this cookie cutter approach where you have a flyer and it looks like something and everybody's expected to look at that and not look beyond what they see on the paper. So as long as people can relate. So a lot of the things that we're doing now as we market them, if you turn it over, it's written in Spanish. Why? It's not because we want people that can't speak English. It's because we want a family member maybe that can take that, maybe that doesn't speak English, but can give that to somebody in the household who's looking for a career where they can translate it, look at it immediately, and know that maybe this is something that they want to do. So we're giving a lot more thought and emphasis on how we want to look in the next 5 years. So spending a lot of time trying to do that. So
Sounds like. doing a great job.
Thank
So
you, thank you.
We appreciate you coming
Thank you.
back into the studio and
Thank you.
updating us on what's going on.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Keep
Thanks
up the
for
great
having-
work.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We'll be right back with more Week in Review right after this. Don't go anywhere.